Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Pulse of Spokane here at Spokane Talks Media. I am your host, Connor Sundet, and I am excited to be talking with Matt Hawkins today from We the People calendar. I have a little bit of visual aid right here. And it's kind of an advent calendar of sorts, but for the Constitution. Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Well, the whole idea started out with three women getting together for lunch and saying we ought to have some fun with our political process. And if we could just create a countdown calendar and an advent calendar that would talk about unique things that are going on, coming on to a presidential election, then we could do that. And so back in the last presidential cycle, they said, we need to start working on that idea. And finally, it was several months after that, I said, I think we have an idea that maybe could gel a little bit faster than that. I said, because you're talking about a lot of work that can go into it. And they said, what do you mean? I said, for that calendar to work, it can't work on an advent basis on just a short-term time period. I said, it needs to work on an entire year. And then everybody kind of thought, how do you make a calendar work on an entire year that's an advent calendar with these pop-up windows like you do for a Christmas calendar? Sure. And I said, I think I have an idea. And the idea was using QR codes to open up history. Mm-hmm. And I said, if we can open up history and make that come alive and make it entertaining. So you use videos, you use cartoons, you use commentary, you use historical documents. I said, but more importantly, you engage people in social media conversations. And all of a sudden they said, okay, you got our attention. And so then we stepped it forward and we started mocking it up. And with the mock-ups on it, we crystallized it down, we put it before some test groups and recognized that we probably had something that was good. And so then we pulled it together in what we call this interactive calendar. Mm-hmm. And with original content, some original content, but a lot of it from just a variety of sources. And it's all about trying to make history come alive, themed around the Constitution. Because as I've talked with other people, the Constitution is the one common area that we all have. I don't care if you're independent, Democrat, Republican, or what, or you can be agnostic. I mean, mm-hmm. If you're living here in the U.S. and you're a citizen, or you're a wannabe citizen, the one thing we all have in common is our citizenship is the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of an important thing that we all share this common ground in the Constitution. Like you said, whether Democrat, Republican, could be whatever. We share these values, and kind of coming across the generations, I feel like this has brought families together a little bit more. And it's funny, before the show we were chit-chatting a little bit about somebody writing in and saying, I have to explain all this to my kid, and I thought your response was pretty great for that.
Well, thank you. It was a family out of Texas that we had received a calendar, and after they've been going through it for 6 weeks or thereabouts, I get the comment coming back. We think we found a problem with this. I said, what's the problem? So when they started going through the problem, I said, so you're going through the weekly reports and you're reading that and you're having a conversation. I said, and you're going through the monthly and you're reading that. And I go, is it too long? They'll go, no, it's not too long. The kids are all reading it and they're having fun with it, and the videos are just the right length. I said, so what's the problem? Well, I'm having to try to explain some of the other information on the calendar. I said, well, that's not a problem. That means the calendar's working. It means your kids are reading or listening, and they're talking with you. It means you're going back and refreshing some of your memory of what you learned in your youth about the Constitution, the history of the country. I said, you're having a conversation as a family. Oh. And that's when the lights went off, and it's kind of like, yeah. So, yeah, it's doing our job if we get people to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that our listeners at home, we kind of talked about it a little bit between families, but why do you think our listeners at home should engage with this new interactive calendar?
For the simple reason that we find we're dispersed either by schedules across the city, let's say, if you all live in the same house, or your house is split up and you have generationally, you're split off across the country now. And there's a gentleman that has what they call the pamphlet. And the pamphlet, and this is one of the learning parts for me. he started the pamphlet about a year and a half ago, and he told me, he says, Matt, he goes, it kind of shocked me and surprised me as to how many people want to learn about American history and the Constitution. I said, what do you mean? He says, within 9 months' time, we were in all 50 states, and we were in 44 countries. I said, oh. So you're telling me that this dispersion of people, and so that helped me understand too. Then that it's a matter of, like, even my own family, we're spread out across half a dozen different states, and it doesn't matter whether you're on the East Coast or the West Coast. You can have an interaction with these QR codes. You can get onto Marco Polo, and you can be making comments back and forth, or you can get onto a video link, and you can talk about in real time what you're learning about. And so it becomes a way of making it, it's not a book, but it is a book. It's not a video player, but it is a video player. It's bringing all these elements together into a learning and conversation experience.
This interactive is kind of, or interactions, I guess, on the calendar are something that people aren't really doing. And I think it's really interesting and kind of the conglomeration of all of the things together to promote that discussion, whoever it's between, people unalike or alike. What is your future plan to take the calendar? Like, what direction is the calendar going to be going in?
Well, we're going to continue. So some people have said, well, okay, you go through the first year and you have all this history you've brought forward. So what do you do for the next year? I said, we'll repeat it with more information and newer information and more relevant information. I said, the American experiment is not just a point in time. The American experiment is a continuation of what we're learning and how we're adapting and applying it to what we're going forward. So you ask what else we're going to do. There's resources that come out of this that could be like in a book format. There's learning issues that we can evolve around with the creation of charts and other teaching aids. I've got an author of another book series that is talking to me now about trying to adapt what they're doing with the book series into what we're doing with the calendar. I got another newsletter group that is talking to me about the idea of adapting what they're doing with their newsletter series into what we're doing with the calendar. We're trying to get on social media to create more awareness on it. And we have the idea that we would like to do more on video creation, on what we're talking about, and really it becomes kind of a media play at that point. But that's a little bit more of the long-term picture.
Gotcha.
But that's also the reason why I think we're developing what I consider to be good, clean video content today.
I think you guys are also kind of moving more towards relating all this stuff on the calendar towards current events. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, talk about any of the current events where we're currently facing, and I think that all of it relates. And the mandate issues that are out there, the issue of how the COVID pandemic has been managed. There's a lot of people that are looking to the federal government for solutions. And that's nice that the federal government has some resources to be able to dedicate, but it's now starting to beg the question, who's really in charge here? Is it the president of the U.S.? Should the president be putting mandates out on everybody? Or is it the governor should be putting mandates out on everybody? Or does the legislative body have a responsibility in what's going on? Are governors going beyond their controls with these emergency powers that they have? And so when you start recognizing those issues, and we can start bringing into the discussion what's going on in different states, we can start to identify the fact that if we allow the best of the solutions to be identified, really what we're doing is we're trying to identify truth. And if we can identify the truths that are out there, it's the truths that will give us peace of mind and will help restore confidence to our system. So the pandemic is one. The mandates is another. The election cycle. What's going on with the elections? I mean, the fact that we've gone to this point now where the election cycles have become, everybody wants to do everything online. Everything online. Well, okay, that's fine. Do it online if you want. What are the risks?
Right.
And if so, then how also do you manage it? And if there are problems with it, then how do you do an audit on the process? How do you ensure that the process or the system is what's designed to be able to give the real voice of the people? And should the federal government be mandating what's going on in our election cycles? And I would have to say no. This compact that we have with the U.S. Constitution, a compact is an agreement between all the states. And it's the states that should be taking responsibility for their election cycles, not the federal government. The federal government is a byproduct of the states coming together. The federal government didn't create the states. The states themselves, by agreement, came together, designed and created the federal government. The federal government should not be larger and more powerful than the states. Never was intended that way. So if that's true, then if you come back to the managing the pandemic, where are the governors at and the state legislative bodies, and how are they managing the process? Because I think we'll find that the best way through this pandemic, the best way through our election troubles that we're having, is by recognizing the values that the states have on what they're doing.
Well, I think you guys are doing great stuff over at We the People calendar.
Thank you.
Really, really great stuff that you're not really seeing anywhere else. It's a really novel idea, and I think it's going to be into the future. I think it's going to grow. I think you're doing good stuff over there. Before you leave, I want to give you a chance, because I know you wanted to plug a couple of things. So I'll give you a chance to anything our listeners should hear.
Right, probably the biggest thing I want to plug right now is that there's a Constitution Bee that we're forming up here in Eastern Washington, and that Constitution Bee is going to be held down in Pullman. If you go onto the website that I think you'll post on the ribbon there, it'll identify where you can go to for information on this Constitution Bee, and it's designed for basically middle school students and high school students coming together to test their knowledge of what they know about the Constitution. And I think it'll help expand the discussion that people have within their homes, and it should help to expand conversations within our communities. Again, we should all be able to have fun talking about our history, both the good points and the bad points. Every family has, some negative things in their family. Every family has some great things in their family. Let's identify the good and the bad, but let's build off of the good and move forward to build our better families, a better community, a better nation.
Well, Matt, again, I really appreciate your time doing great things over there, and we hope to see you again fairly soon. Come back here on the Pulse of Spokane. And to our listeners at home, thank you for tuning into The Pulse. I am your host, Connor Sundet.
At Eastern Washington University, biologists are harnessing gut microbes to build stronger bees. Composers are writing music to help us understand how salmon migrate. And geology joins forces with robotics to explore innovative solutions for climate change. An interdisciplinary education that gets real about the real world, that's the new thing. It isn't a tagline, it's a philosophy wrapped in red and white. It is Eastern Washington and you.
Hi, this is Larry Myers, normally at River Ridge Hardware, here at Peters Hardware, where I've been blessed to be able to buy it. Initially started in 1934 by Bill Peters, and I was blessed to be able to purchase that from the Peters family. Peters Hardware is located at 12118 East Sprague, enter off of Pines and First. We have all the quality home products that you need, including quality paint now, where we can match any color that you want. We're here for you for all your home needs. Come on by to Peters Hardware in Spokane Valley.